Welcome to the first video for Section 2, Chapter 1 of your McGraw Hill Geometry textbook called Linear Measure. So, again, what we're going to do is we're going to go through what would be the class notes for your geometry class. So if you were in class, you've already seen this once, but maybe hearing it a second time and hearing me without interruption from other students, from questions, from whatever happened to distract me at the moment might be helpful. So, we start off with a vocabulary word, a line segment. A line segment is a piece of a line with two distinct endpoints. Now, this brings us to some important notation. When we do a line segment, so here we have a picture of a line that contains the points A and B. The line segment, we would say segment, see this is without the arrowheads, segment AB. Notice that this is very different from naming the line. So when we name the line, we use the notation AB with the line symbol over it. When we do a line segment, we do the notation with a line segment over it. See how there's no arrowheads on the ends? And if we wanted to know the length between A and B, we would just say A and B with no line over it at all. Okay? So AB is the length of segment AB. Now we can measure that with a ruler, and the way that we do that is we line up our 0 mark with one endpoint, and we take the length reading from the other endpoint. So if you have a ruler at home, I would suggest that you get it out. I'm actually going to break out the electronic ruler here, assuming that I can find it. Let's see here. Math Tools, ruler. So what we do, like I said, I've got to get my arrow here, so give me a second. Notice that I have an inch side and a millimeter side, so I'm going to measure it in millimeters. We line up our 0 mark with A, and we line up our ruler along line AB, and we take a measurement. That measurement is right about here, which as you can see is approximately 53 centimeters on my board. Now, that's 53 centimeters on my board. If you're looking at the notes themselves, you should get a measurement of approximately 3.4 centimeters or 1 3/8 of an inch. So that's how you take a measurement with a ruler. Moving on to the idea of betweenness of points, and we will formalize this later in the course with a postulate, which is another thing we haven't discussed yet. We say that point M is between points P and Q if and only if M, P, and Q are collinear and the length of PM plus the length of MQ equals the length of PQ. Those two things are required for this idea of betweenness of points. So PM, this length here, plus MQ equals the entire length of PQ, which makes perfect sense when we think about it. Let's do an example. So here's a picture of a line EG that contains points E, F, and G, and it asks us to find the length of EG. Well, F is between E and G, which means we can write the equation EF plus FG equals EG. Now notice that we know the measurements of EF and FG. They're given in the problem. They are both 2 3/4 of an inch. So we would plug those in. 2 3/4 of an inch plus 2 and 3/4 of an inch, and we would add those together to get EG. Now I'm going to I'm going to turn these into improper fractions. 4 times 2 plus 3 is 11/4 for both measurements. And then when I add fractions, I add the numerators. That would be 22/4, which would reduce to 11/2, or 5.5 inches. That is how we carry out one of these. Let's do two more. Let's do a couple more examples. We are going to skip over the classwork example and go to the next note example. Find AB, assume the figure is not drawn to scale. So again, notice some things are different here. Now we can still say B is between A and C, which means that AB plus BC equals AC. Now notice that we know BC and we know AC. So we plug those two numbers in. We do not know AB. BC is 5.8 meters and AC is 13.2 meters. That's a one-step equation, just like we discussed in chapter 0. Well, no we didn't. Just like we learned in algebra class, we would subtract 5.8 from each side of the equation, and that would give us that AB is 7.4 meters. One more. Now I can make that a little bit harder if instead of giving you actual lengths, if I give you algebraic expressions. So notice that find the value of A and the length of xy if y is between x and z. So right there, y is between x and z. That gives us our equation. Our equation will be xy plus yz equals xz. Okay? So that's what we're going to be working with. xy plus yz equals xz. Now all three of those measurements are given. xy is 3a, yz is 14, and the entire length, xz, is 5a minus 4. So we plug those values in. 3a plus 14 equals 5a minus 4. That is an equation with a variable on each side. So we move the variables to one side, say we subtract 3a from each side, and we add 4 to each side. That will move the variable to one side and the number to the other. And will give us 18 equals 2a. Divide by 2 on each side to get a by itself, and we get that a is 9. Now just like on the ACT-SAT, we have to check and see if we're done. We have found the value of a, but we're also supposed to provide the length of xy. Well, xy is 3a, so 3 times 9, or 27. And they do not give us units, so we would say xy is 27 units. That does it for the first video for section 2. There will be one more video for this section.